Okay, let's see. What's exactly going on? Time for Gamble to wise up. And also something to deal with you up. What are European Union doing?
Service games after end of life. Is this true? It seems like something they're trying to get to the lawmakers over there. We'll take a look and see what they're
Oh,
saying.
this is about closing
Video
down
games are going
games.
to an industry.
Okay.
Right. Increasing number of publishers are selling video games that are required to connect through the internet to the game publisher or a home phone to function. While this is not a problem in itself, when support ends for these games, very often the publishers simply sever the connection to the.
Okay, real quick. I'm gonna call it now. I know nothing about that specifically, other than knowing how how the European Union don't fuck around with companies. But it is gonna be. I guess we're gonna find out in a second. But I'm calling it now. This is because of like the whole selling like $50-$70 product and then canceling them. I'm looking at you, Babylon Fall. Um, Also maybe the very I wouldn't say shutting it down, but also like the very iffiness of like Suicide Squad, um, or like any games in general. Or I wonder if they're gonna be about all, so you can technically spend money in microtransactions in general, maybe in general on this then. So let's see.
Necessary game and destroy all the working
Is it about
copies of
the
the
whole
game.
$60,
So
$70
basically
game?
what he's saying is that there are live service games that come out and then the developer just decides to pull the plug on them, and now everybody that bought the game effectively wasted their money. So basically, and also that you're not able to make a private server in replacement of that, right?
Yeah, let's be honest. It would be great if when the game shut down, they would just like delete the sort code out. I know why they don't, obviously, because like a lot of that stuff is like proprietary. A lot of that stuff could, could and will be like migrated to other projects to keep, copyright up. And also speaking of copyright, to copyright in general, especially for live service stuff, and especially when you start getting into like license stuff on top of that. I'm looking at you like, like but hell, we were talking about it a couple nights ago with like Friday the 13th, or what is happening with Chainsaw Massacre being taken off Game Pass. Um, it's just like, like that type of deal, like stuff, like any like now, like one of my most excited like MMO coming up is like, Doom Awakening, but at the same time is like any of I'm over the moon excited for that. It's still a licensing game at the end of the day, and any of that game's successful, that game could still be dead in a year if the license get revoked. And then not counting like, of course, any money that gets spent in it, which is the main one of many reasons why I won't be spending money in that game. But, I'm still excited for it just because of like, what it is. But like, yeah, it like 100%. It's like so many examples of it very quickly going sideways. Hell, what was it? Friday 13 lasted what? I think it technically still online. You just can't technically buy it outside of physical to like the end of the year. But like that got what delisted within like a year and a half. Babylon Fall literally got delisted in like what, less than 6 months. Like, so yeah.
Right? So you're fucked. So that's basically what happened,
Yeah, I'll
right? It's
probably be
just
playing
not
Drone
just live
Liberty when it
service.
comes
Yeah,
out.
but it's primarily live service. I know there's a few exceptions. The practice is effectively robbing customers of their purchases and makes restoration impossible. Besides being an affront to consumer rights, video games themselves are unique creative works. Like film, music, one cannot simply.
Also, real quick on the whole private server stuff. I know there's like a handful of companies that will release the stuff out there. I'm looking at you, EverQuest, like what EverQuest have done with some of the official but unofficial private server where they actually, help getting them up and going. Um, and then also then you got other examples like the PS2 private server, the Final Fantasy 11 private server, the Blue Bolt private servers. I know City of Heroes also did the whole thing of teaming up with the dev to actually for the private. But like the private servers that get the blessing of company is so far in between. Because any day, like Horizon for Final Fantasy 11 could be going like that, growing it where we wanted it to be. But at the same time, it's like, in a perfect universe, it would be like, yeah, when the game go offline, to release it for people to like tinker set up private. But sadly, copyright shit kind of stands in the way of a lot of that. So, um, yeah, like the mobile MMO, they took down the one by never play it. That the mobile one, right? We fun on a Kelto Kin, yeah.
Simply be substituted for another by destroying.
Oh, also the other thing about that, speaking of like Wii Funny, it like when the game shut down, you not always can like refund the stuff, Cause I like the whole example, like what happened with like L-Ship and Wayfinal, where it got delisted and got technically, I know it technically back up at least on PC anyway, but that a whole different thing. But nonetheless, like what happened now is like when Digital Stream cut them loose, and then they couldn't keep the servers up and they couldn't keep the game running anymore because they didn't have the money. And like what they talked about in all the interviews, like, yeah, you can try to refund it, but the thing is that they don't have the money. The publisher kept the money because they were like contracted for X amount of time or X amount of dev time. So it like, other than like a small little like licensing fee, they don't have that money because I go to the publisher. So you run into that whole situation of, not being able to refund stuff because the corporation who is shutting down or the studio that might be shutting down might not even have the money to begin with, and the publishers kind of took it, and now, like, for example, like all the money in Wayfinder, like outside of the contract that was agreed upon by L-Ship, the majority of that money is probably going into Warframe 99, what was it, the Dark Souls game they making, or just Warframe. So, wait, there was an MMO on Epic that was mobile? Can you give me the name of that? Because I know about the DC one. Or are you talking about the old mobile hero game? That got shut down like 5+ years ago at that point. Anyway.
Them, it represents a creative loss for everyone involved and erases history in ways not possible to other mediums. So basically, they're trying to add a law. No one may be deprived of his or her possessions except in the public interest or in the cases under the conditions provided under the law, subject to fair compensation, being paid in good time for their loss. So basically,
yeah, the only way they like that type of stuff gonna work in the U.S. if it becomes so fucking annoying for them to deal with this that they will just change it to not deal with it. Kind of like how some like Korean companies have, like, after they banned random chant loot boxes and daily bonus login in like around China. Some of them companies are just like, fine, we moving it across the board, in every other region that the game is available in. Without something like that happen, like, if it does pass, this will probably, wait, Mobile Hero or Omega wasn't? I thought that was on mobile as well. Am I wrong about that? Oh wait, hang on. Let me see. Or is this the one I was thinking? Yeah. This is the one I was thinking about. The one that got delisted. Wait, was this on Epop for a while? I only ever played this on like PS4. Yeah, this is the one that was like was it Dark Alliance? It was technically like Dark Alliance, but MMO. The thing that sucked about that game getting canned was, at least for me, like, when they did the Wii blend to Omega, I jumped in because I was like, oh, I want to see how it is now. And I actually got kind of addicted to it. And then, like, literally right after, like a month after I got into it, it was like, yeah, we're shutting it down on PS4. I did not know it was still up on Xbox. I did not know that was a thing. But yeah, anyway. But yeah, that was the other one I was thinking about, because I knew it was that one, and then I knew it was the mobile. So, had so many Venom skins. Yeah, I don't even know what I unlocked since I know put money on it, but I know I had stuff unlocked on it nonetheless. But yeah, that'd be nice if that game did come back. But But yeah, the thing is here, all things considered, like, if it pass in Europe, good. Hopefully it becomes super annoying to the point that they would do it in all of the region. I don't got much faith for that, because don't forget, we still have games that comes out in Europe, that comes out in, like, Germany, that comes out in, like, random country, hell, Japan, as an example, that will be, like, edited or, like, chained around and not, like, big enough to make it more. Like, for example, like, look at the difference between what happened to RE2 in Japan versus America, or any game that Amazon is publishing, like all the MMOs, like Lost Ark. They ended up, like, removing some of the microtransaction stuff because America is kind of like on it. Um, so like, I don't know, like, they're gonna really matter that much outside of Europe. It would be nice if it becomes so annoying that they just give up and just do it in all regions. But then again, I guess on the other hand, if they do pass in Europe and people on private server can create it in Europe at least, like, the ping might not be great, but I guess you could technically hop onto the European private server. It's just one of them things that, like, that still kind of, like, limit how many, like, indie devs that would be able to pick this up. But then again, also, I get the other camp of this is, like, how would you enforce it now thinking about it? Like, if you do it in Europe, you give out the code in Europe, but if somebody thought a private server in the US, like, obviously, I get they could get that information, like the corporation, and see if it's going against copyright law. Um, but yeah, like my only bigger worry here would be like, limiting, like, the people that would have the know-how and affiliate to just one region. But nonetheless, that should be a thing. So, to my knowledge, from what I heard, Joe, the Marvel game got shut down because they lost the license. Like, that's what I heard when they shut down, because I'm pretty sure when they shut down, they put out release. And that was one of the things they said it had something to do with, like, losing the license for Marvel because, Disney was getting a little more, like, spread out with it at the time.
I completely agree with this. I want to say I completely 100%, 200% absolutely agree with this. So let's talk about why I agree with this. The main reason why is because if you buy something, you should be able to use it. And I think the developer, like, so I have no problem if a developer has a live service game. I think that you should have to play on their version of the game. Like, that's fair. But if they shut down the servers, I don't think that they should have the legal authority to shut down private servers that exist in place of the official servers. So for
he get, like, Asmongold getting into some of the things of, like, some of the thing how I feel about, like WOMs and ISO. Like I get the whole thing about copyright thing. Like, say you put out, like, GTA 3 only on PS2. I know this is a bad example, but just hear me out. I'm like, oh, this is on PS2. And then we get to, like, PS, 5, like, now. We get to nowadays time. And you can't buy GTA 3 anymore. It's gone. Can't buy it legally. And the IP, like, the copyright have, like, lapsed. And, like, at that point, like, for me, piracy becomes a central part of not only being able to play it, but also for historical reasons. And at that point, it, like, yeah, if you don't own the copyright anymore and you don't have it up for sale anywhere, it, like, at that point, I feel like from a company point of view, you have no right to come after it to remove that. For example of this, well, outside my GTA hypothetical, like, a real example would be, like, what happened with, like, Nintendo. How Nintendo went on to different piracy sites and WOM sites and literally sue them into oblivion or threaten to sue them to the point of shutting down when there is other games that belong to other company or just dead IPs that are just, shellwell typed up, that is not connected to Nintendo at all. And then I ain't counting like Super Nintendo game or NES game or insult whatever Nintendo platform that also belong to like company that just don't exist anymore. That is like 100% shellwell, freewell at that point. I should say freewell technically, or abandonwell. Abandonwell, the actual term. Boy, my bad. And like at that point, like, yeah, Nintendo shouldn't be able to do that. Like if Nintendo want to be like, go to a random WOM site and be like, yeah, get rid of, Mario 64 or whatever, something they actually own the copyright to and something
This
that you've
right
been
here
able
is
to
my
get.
favorite thing ever.
It is,
In
Chad.
the history of forever. I think about this every day. I think about this all night long. I stay awake, not sleeping, because I'm thinking about this.
Absolutely. But like, go to these sites and be like, hey, we move Mario 64, we're gonna sue you. But whenever like you go to them and be like, we move all game and we move everything else that we don't actually own. We move them Sony games. We move them Genesis games. Get rid of the 3DO stuff. Like I feel like that is like a step too far. And I feel like there's a will is kind of like coming in a little bit on that as well. Like I said, like if the game is dead. Like, if Final Fantasy XI shut down tomorrow, and Square Enix keep the copyright to Final Fantasy XI, and like, yeah, any private store will go after, take them down. Your legal right to take it down, especially in America. Well, if you don't use your copyright, you can lose your copyright. So, like, absolutely. But if Final Fantasy XI go down tomorrow, and then they never make a Final Fantasy game ever again, and they don't renew the license for Final Fantasy, and they're like, yeah, go do private server. Delete the code, let them go do private server. That kind of where I like fall on all of this.
For example, like let's say World of Warcraft gets shut down. I'm not a fan of private servers, and I don't think you should make private servers right now because there is a legal way that you can go through to consume the product. But if there is no way that you can go through to consume the product in the way that you initially bought it, then you should be able to remedy that yourself.
You should not have the right, like Nintendo, you should not have the right to like remove that stuff. And, like, if you wanna go to these sites and be like, remove my Nintendo game, remove the Nintendo game, but keep the PlayStation stuff, keep the 3DO stuff, keep the Saturn stuff. Like, to them company come out and say, hey, we moved that PlayStation stuff, aka being Sony. To Sony tell them site to remove it, that site should not be being shut down because of Nintendo. Or be terrified to a legal standpoint where you shut down the site and remove everything else out of field. Like, yeah, that should not be legal at all, Like, it's up to the owner of the IP to decide, what will they want to go after and how they want to defend the IP. And not another company that don't have nothing to do with them right to do it. That's the biggest thing that annoyed the fuck out of me about, like, the whole Nintendo and WOM site. Like, take down the shit that you own the right to, that you still have the ability to either have up for sale, download, in the case of Mario 64, the Nintendo streaming thing. They're like, yeah, long you guys providing or you still own the right to the copyright and you still making games in that license, you have no right to dictate, what are on them sites at all outside of your own stuff.
So if you have a game and they shut down the servers, you should be able to make your own server in place of that, and they should not be able to shut that down because they are not providing the service anymore. It's that fucking simple. So that's what I think. When they abandon it, it should become private. Exactly. So that's what I think you should be able to do. Time for the USA to implement this too? Yeah, exactly. I agree. I'm definitely. How does that work with continuously updated game? Well, simple. It's the same as it works with Classic WoW right now. People play Classic WoW, and everybody likes Classic WoW, and it's the same patch that it's been for 10 years. Basically, I mean, I know they did a couple of updates for, like, you know, consistency, etc. But for the most part, it's been pretty much the exact same. So, yeah, you just do the exact same thing. So the government's going to force the developers to pay for the service if the game...
Yeah. City of Heroes, City of Heroes and EverQuest is a two perfect example of how you do it. Hell, EverQuest is still going, and they literally supported the private server for, you know, what EverQuest was in 97. Like, City of Hero went under, but they supporting the private server and helping on the private server. Absolutely. Like, that is the two, like, example of how this should be done.
Game is essentially dead. You a retard? We got a retard in the chat. We got a fucking idiot that don't know how to listen. Shut the fuck up, bitch. Shut up, you fucking idiot. Get the fuck out of here. Trying to have a conversation. So this dude actually went and he talked about this situation.
Hey, the dude
we'll take a look at it. We'll see what he's gonna say.
Hey, the dude from Freeman Mine. Go what Freeman Mine chat. Great.
I like this guy. He made another video about this before.
Hi, I'm Ross.
Hi, Ross.
For the past several months, I've been working on a campaign to stop the destruction of video games.
Yeah, we watched the original
most video games
video.
work indefinitely, and yeah, that's pretty much it. But more and more are being designed to stop working the second support ends from the publisher. A kill switch, essentially.
Yeah.
It's a form of planned obsolescence, where publishers are destroying games they've already sold to you.
Planned obsolescence, by the way, some people might not know this, is that this is a actual term. It's not like some bullshit.
Apple do
it's
a
when,
lot of that.
like, how many of y'all ever bought a phone in, like, you know, 2 years and 1 month on the dot, the phone just starts going, you know, like, y'all ever had that happen? That's planned obsolescence. And I think that in Europe it was ruled to be illegal. I'm not an expert in this, but my understanding is that it is. So they can't basically design things so that they are made to break. So this, yeah, I'm just saying, like, that's not like a, you know, he's not using a phrase.
Yeah.
This is a codified term.
Keeping your money.
Go
And
watch
this
the
is
John
all
Audible
preventable.
video.
Some people
Well, not
don't
John
understand that.
Audible. Oh, wait.
I've compared
more
this
news
before to
video
studios
on
from a
that if you want more
century ago
information.
Yeah.
burning their own films after they were done showing them to recover
Yep.
the silver content. And now most films of that era are gone
They're
forever.
gone.
That's very similar to what's happening to video games today.
Yep.
It's just a terrible practice
a
for
game
everyone
graveyard.
involved. Now, most of
Look at
my
Wild
efforts have
Star.
gone
Before
towards challenging the
example.
legality of this practice in various countries because
Why
it's
should a company be responsible for keeping the servers turned on for a game to operate? I want you to say sorry. Say sorry for wasting our fucking time with your dumbass message. You didn't even listen to what was been said. Say sorry. You wasting everybody's fucking time with your bullshit. Well, no, come on, let's go. We gotta get this. We gotta get this over.
The dude
with.
getting
We
banned,
can't be
isn't
wasting
he?
our time with this bullshit this early. Bro, it's barely noon. You already being stupid. What are you doing being stupid this early? Sorry? Yeah, me too, man. Shut the fuck up, bitch.
so consumer hostile, it's not clear if what's going on is even legal. That's still ongoing.
Yeah.
But now we have a new option, proposing new law, and for the entire European Union. It took months to get put together and processed. But now we have a European Citizens Initiative devoted to halting the destruction of video games. You can read it yourself.
I just can't, like, I'm thinking about, I look behind him and I'm like, that's like the Windows XP, like, default background. Like, I don't know why, I can't unsee it.
This would require publishers to
is.
leave
Yeah.
games they have sold to
at this.
customers in a working state at the time of shutdown, without requiring any further connection to them or affiliated parties for the games to
Exactly.
function. How they would do this would be up to them. This would also apply to free-to-play games that contain microtransactions. Because if you purchased a microtransaction as a good, then the game is made unplayable, well then you just lost your goods.
You did, and it's like basically your waifu evaporates. Like, that's it, it's gone. Like, the game goes into service, all of your SSR 5-star characters are deleted, they're done. Yeah.
Would not require publishers to give up any of their intellectual property
No.
rights, give up their source code, though that one would still be nice. It wouldn't require endless support. They can end it anytime
Yeah.
they want, as far as we're concerned. They wouldn't need to host servers.
You hear that?
Though they would have to either patch out that requirement or else allow customers to host them privately.
Okay, so this is like talking about. I don't get me wrong, Salt Code will make a lot of this easier, but so we are talking specifically about reverse engineering. Like this is a thing. Some of you might know about. If you haven't, because I know some of you play Final Fantasy 14, you probably have watched videos about this. Maybe if not, you need. How there have been a lot of YouTubers recently. I believe Jesse Cott did it. I think Paul Jella did it, and I know a few other people that also have done it. Like by having the original copy of the game, in that case, physical like copy in the case of Final Fantasy 11, but using like the original game and reverse engineering it to not only get the information from like the discs, but also getting that information and then like walking through it to get it to one on a private source. A lot of YouTubers have, like I said, have done it recently with 11. So yeah, so we are talking about like a good like example that would be like what I'm hoping gonna happen soon with like the 360 is I'm hoping a lot of like mod team will start actually going through like the games on hard drive, but digital stuff, and start reverse engineering them to like pull them out, to make them something that is readable by a emulator. So the game that was lost, so you know, if people still have, can find a way to actually play them. Like I said, I've been using Dip Warsaw as an example that for the last months or so ever since their bot was starting to shut down. But like, so that's what they all talking about. So we all like sidestepping the whole sort code issue and the property issue. So that is good. That way they'll fix one of my like hang ups, like, you know, I thought like actually like enforcing this. But like I said, it like you all probably have played a game that like, oh, you got a character animation pulling out a bow and shooting in and whatever MMO. And then you go play like the net game, might be another MMO if you're playing a lot of gacha stuff. You probably see that gacha stuff as well heavily. You go play whatever the net game, or like if you play Genshin, and then you go play Honkai, or like example right now people using with ZZZ and Genshin, having the exact same like female animation for the app playing. It's just because like that stuff gets, you know, we use all the fucking time. For example, there's also like how Bethesda been using like animation that been around since Morrowind, for God's sake. So that will right there will get around the whole like not only property stuff but sort code and animation stuff. So that's good. So they're not being like you have to turn over your game, and more along the lines of you can't go after them for trying to set up private source. Which, you know, I think the once again the issue still gonna stand here. Like, is there gonna be any hang up here outside of the EU, especially in America, since how our copyright is so strangling, I guess is the way to put it. But yeah, this sidestep some of my issues.
Exactly.
Yes. Any liability for what customers do with their copies of games.
Yeah, it's not their problem.
Nothing about this initiative would have any impact on publisher business practices while the game is being supported.
Exactly.
In other words, publishers can continue doing whatever they want as long as you get to keep your game.
Yep.
It amazes me when some people say that's going too far in favor of the consumer. Though to be fair, that's probably not most Europeans. The idea here is we're just trying to stop games from being destroyed. That's it. So we're taking as narrow an approach as possible.
God, they need
that
to put
still
this
solves
in
the problem.
into WOMs.
If we get enough signatures, then this goes before the European Union to be considered as new law. Now, if you're on board with this, you don't have to keep watching. You can go sign it right now. But wait,
Yeah,
before,
I don't really see why like anybody would be against this. This seems
Well,
like
you'd
just
be
a good
surprised.
decision.
You'd be so surprised.
Because like here's the
Have and
thing,
go.
right? Is like if you pay for things inside
But,
of
like,
a
giving people
game,
free healthcare, someone's
like
gonna
you
be
still
against it.
spent your fucking money. And I think that if you spend your money on something, you should have some degree of protection for what happens to that thing. Like this whole thing, and this is what these companies do, is they try to take everything like, you know, the you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, live in a pod, eat the bugs, right? There's a big component of this with owning nothing that's happening a lot, where people buy things, but they don't have any ownership of the thing that they're buying. So, for example, like you buy a movie, well, you don't buy a movie. You buy
Yeah,
it
you
on
like them.
Amazon, and you don't even really own the DVD.
Yeah, you went in and
You
liked
don't
them.
have any autonomy of what you're going to do with that movie. You can't watch it wherever you want to watch it. You can't put it in a DVD player somewhere else. You can't do anything, right? So, I think that there's like a massive, like the level of control that companies can exert over a user after the user has given them money, I think is too big right now. There's too many things that a company can do to control what a user does.
Yeah, the way around that, Joe, is like there was things you can do. So let's say you like once again, this is getting into some funky territory for a movie. But like if you went like let's say you rent a movie off Amazon. You have like 3 day, 4 day, whatever the amount is. I think it's like 3 days, 24 hours. Or you buy a movie like we saw that when Sony ended up shutting down the anime stuff, and then also what happened with Discovery removing a whole bunch of stuff, I believe off PSN as well. Any of you bought it, they just got rid of it. And like really the only thing you can do at that point, which I know a lot of people are not going to want to do this, don't even have the time to do that because they're going to get like very, very much a time thing, would be you go into whatever web browser you're in, you turn off acceleration. You can do this in Chrome. I know you can do that like in Firefox. Back in the day, you could do this in Firefox by default. But the setting you have to go into. Turn off acceleration. And then download OBS. OBS is the best way to do that. Download OBS. Do a screen cap. Play the video. Hit record in OBS. And then from there, put it on your hard drive. Put it in a Blu-ray. Put it on a DVD. You know, whatever. Put it on flash drive. And that is like, yeah, but Asmongold not talking about like whipping DVDs. He talking about like getting stuff off of like a store. So like Amazon Prime, Netflix, Webot when Webot was a thing digitally. What was the other one, like Bitmo or whatever it's called?
Tuck in time.
Hang on, Sam. Making YouTube videos. So yeah, like, you know, like the DVD whipping is a whole other thing, which I know a lot of people also been doing because I know a lot of people been getting back into the whole like, you know, buying physical goods for that reason. But yeah, he talking about like exclusively like, you know, buying, renting like a digital copy
with something that they've spent their money on. And to me, when somebody says, oh, but you didn't buy it, you bought a license for it, that doesn't really matter because licenses aren't real, right? Like you can't go out in, you know, in nature and, oh, that's a wild license, right? It's not a real thing. This is like a invention of people, right? People invented this idea of a license. So what I'm saying is that this idea of a license needs to fucking change.
Before you do, you have one chance to do this right.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hard, but if you make a mistake, your signature is invalidated and you don't get another chance. We've made guides at StopKillingGames.com on how to do this, just in case.
Yep.
But is this as simple as people sign this and it becomes law in the EU? Yeah, it might be.
Still gotta
Now,
get
it's
through
not a
voting,
guarantee, but I think if we get the signatures, this passes. Why do I say that? Well, it's a few factors. Politicians like easy wins.
Well, yeah, there's that. And also, like, if you understand the topic, there is no way that it's defendable that you can spend money on something and then they can just shut it down randomly and prevent you from figuring out a way to access it on your own. It's like obviously fucking unfair. It's completely unfair. Any reasonable person could look at it and be like, well, that's really fucking stupid.
And this doesn't require them to do much at all. And unless it involves gambling or protecting children, politicians generally don't care about video games.
Yeah.
So this isn't of big consequence to them or most of their constituencies. EU law is already unclear on a lot of this practice anyway.
Yeah.
And we would be making it easy for them to settle it. It falls in line with other consumer practices.
That's
you know,
the biggest thing to me, right? Is because this, if you logically interpret the law from like what my understanding of it is, which is probably kind of inaccurate, but I think it's kind of accurate too, is that this is very clearly a consumer unfriendly practice that is in nobody's best interest other than the companies. There is not a single consumer whose experience with a product is improved because other people cannot make servers whenever that game is no longer being supported officially. Nobody's experience is improved by not allowing this to happen. So it is a pure negative.
How when you buy something, you're generally allowed to keep it? And finally, this is a diversion from really serious topics that politicians would prefer not to deal with.
Yeah.
This would let them stay busy and avoid hard stuff. In fact, I would bet if we can clear the signature threshold, this passes into law and we solve the problem 90% or more. I say 90% because this would only impact the EU. So if a game was released only in China or Japan, yeah, this wouldn't save those. But most video games are sold globally, and the EU is part of that. Once it's a requirement...
Well, here's the other thing, right? Is like, actually, it would pretty much solve the problem. I'll tell you why. It's because you can just log on to a European server. So even if it's not the law here in America, if you have the copy of the game, you can just log on to the European server. I mean, like, yeah, you're going to have bad ping, right? It's not going to be great, but it's better than nothing. So yeah, as long as there's a place where you can do this, then it completely solves it for all intents and purposes for, you know, an average online gamer.
That companies have to let you keep the games they sold to you in a major market like that, I think it spreads, whether it's the law elsewhere or not.
I don't think it will go outside
now,
the EU.
Unfortunately, what I would not bet on, because it's a huge unknown, is whether we can pass that signature threshold to begin with.
Yeah.
In order for this to work, we need 1 million signatures across the EU. Though really, it's more than that. Because some are going to be invalidated because...
That's a lot.
Who knows why?
That's a lot.
So really,
Damn.
we need more like 1.2 or 1.3
That's
million
a lot.
signatures. Oh, and it gets worse because you need certain minimum thresholds per country for it to pass. So say somebody signs it in Greece. Well, then we need almost 15,000 more Greeks to sign it. Otherwise, none of the Greek signatures count. That rule strikes me as rather obtuse and awkward. I almost wonder if the EU took a page from the United States.
I was going to say that American thing.
Anyway, that's a lot of signatures. I might be delusional for attempting this. I don't know yet. Now, the good news is...
I mean, I can support it. I definitely support it. Absolutely. And, like, the thing is, there's a good chance that the way it stands right now could be problematic in ways that I might not have been able to predict right now. Like, was, for example, like, you know, releasing the same patch, one patch behind for retail WoW. Like, this would maybe technically be accurate. It's, like, should not be true. So, like, I think it's something that should be investigated. They should figure out what the solution for this is, because it's very clearly bad for users.
1 year to get them all. So we will have time. Although I'll say right now, there is no way I can get that many Europeans just from my audience. The only way this works is by reaching out to European YouTubers and streamers and so on to get on board, and non-English speaking ones at that.
Yeah, sure.
Now, I'll do my part and promote this the best I can, but I have limited reach. In fact, since I've started Stop Killing Games, I want to say everyone I've reached out to never responded. So me reaching out doesn't work. It's a total failure rate. However, there are
It's the
two
way it
things
is.
that did work. One is people reaching out to me, since I respond to a lot. And two is people just covering this on their own.
No, I'll link it to you guys after
really
this.
worked. Which means if you're watching this, you may be a critical link in all this.
Oh, I'm a
Because
critical link,
you
guys.
can tell other YouTubers, streamers, etc. about this initiative, and maybe they'll pick it up. And again, it's even better if their core audience is non-English speaking. The number of native English speakers in the EU is relatively small. So we need to connect the dots in other languages the best we can.
Yeah, no doubt.
Now, I'm offering myself for interviews, publicity on this issue, whatever, to almost anyone with a European audience of some size. In addition to that,
I'll tell you, like, a lot of people from
sadly,
Europe
we only
watch
got
my
2
stream.
chat.
Like, that's crazy. I
got
didn't
Liam
even
and
know
Jonathan,
that.
that
Somebody
is.
told me at Twitch just a long time ago that I had one of the biggest ratios of, like, European viewers for somebody who's not a European streamer.
You can see your stats.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
On all platforms.
Spokesperson and backup spokesperson for the initiative have offered to speak on this also. And they are multilingual. And we have a few more official organizers who may be willing to discuss this in other languages as well.
Hopefully.
These are the people officially in charge. You know, actual Europeans. Yeah, even though I've helped, officially, I'm not a part of this. I'm not eligible. Doesn't matter. Whatever gets us to the finish line. And speaking of eligibility, it's pretty simple. You need to be a citizen of an EU country, though you don't have to live there, and you need to be at least voting age. That's it. This also means it's not just you who can sign this, but your friends can sign this. Your family
Your
can
fat
sign
friends.
this. Girlfriends, boyfriends can sign this. They all count. Get everybody. And tell them to get people to sign too. And yes, it feels weird that I'm an ineligible American campaigning for Europeans to sign a document. But you know what? If it passes...
So telling game companies to give away their server tech is kind of bad for IP purposes? It was clearly stated inside. That's complex enough to where, like, I'm not going to get mad at you for saying that. It was actually clearly stated inside of what was written that that would not be required.
We all win. So we just have to go to where the openings are. Oh, and if your relatives or whoever don't care about video games, you can explain to them this is also about not losing basic ownership. Like, if video games are cars, what's happening now would be like if I sold you a car at full price, then later, and I wouldn't tell you how much later, so it's not a rental, I then came to your house and repossessed your car.
Right.
But I also kept your money. That is not good business.
No.
Or not for the consumer anyway.
Yeah, the way that it stands right now is
Google
completely
automatically do
consumer
that.
unfriendly.
Like, if you click on
Like as a consumer, like, you're getting
subtitle,
fucked.
you can change language.
That's all there is to it. You're getting fucked.
Oh. You know.
Just taking back what you've
No
sold is
already way to
great
do
for
it
businesses.
automatically.
Maybe that's why the industry is worth more than movies and music combined. I get it. Video games aren't that important to most people. But because of that, they're the canary in the coal mine. What about
people
farm
use it.
equipment? Education tools.
You know,
medical
us Americans
devices.
don't usually use it.
You do not want this practice spreading to other areas, believe me.
But
The
we
one
don't
thing
care
I want
about
to
other
That's actually, he
languages,
brings up
you
a
know.
really good point, and you're seeing car manufacturers do this too. So there are a number of subscriptions that you have to get to not have to, but that you can get for
Like the
cars.
heat and see,
And a
ale.
lot of the subscriptions, like for example, OnStar and like having direct service, I think makes sense that you would have to pay a subscription for it because it's an ongoing service that happens. But for example, I think heated seats is one of them as well, where in some cars, you have to pay money to have something activated. I think the idea that you can buy a product and then have part of that product intentionally deactivated to upsell you is why are we allowing this?
Money.
That's
That's why.
insane.
Money.
Absolutely fucking insane. How's that even possible? So video games, he's definitely right that like this is the canary in the coal mine where if this is happening to video games, it's going to happen to cars, TVs, computers, and stuff like.
Yeah, to be honest, real quick on the whole like using to translate the language. Yeah, a lot of I have noted this a lot in like React content. I probably need to start doing it myself. I just keep forgetting. is, you will turn on the subtitles, and then the subtitles would be there. So if you talk over something, people can still read and see what's being um, and that like one reason like why we actually will do it to like YouTube videos. At all, like why people do it like on the home videos and stuff like subtitling help. Outside of the automatic one on Google or through YouTube, I mean, like TikTok and stuff, it like that. It also for oh hell, they do it on YouTube, like actually baking in the subtitles. Is mainly for people who either can't hear because they deaf, or the people who are like watching videos and they don't have headphones, they don't want to bother people, or maybe you have like bad eyesight. Or not bad eyesight, sorry, like bad hearing as well. So, yeah, the thing is, I feel like hard baiting in languages, a main reason why a lot of people don't do like the bake in one in other languages is mainly because a lot of like the AI stuff that do the translation, in literal translation, not proper translation. And then on top of that, it's certain things that would be like on certain accents or certain beat pediments. Certain words can get fucked up in the translation, and you will need to go in there manually and change it. But if you don't know the language, it becomes very hard to do that. So the main reason why a lot of like YouTubers that do that type of stuff, usually they will hire somebody to do it that is like fluent in that language and have them do it. So yeah, it just like, one of them cases that it's still better. No matter what we have right now, it's still ideally, if you're going to do baking in subtitle, to have someone who can properly translate it. So yeah.
Like this afterwards, right? You already saw what happened, for example, with Unity. You saw what happened with Adobe, for example. So this is happening with software as well. It's a very big problem. Logitech mouse.
Some of you have already done the math.
Yeah.
I realize we need an average of over 2,700 signatures a day in order to make this work.
That's crazy.
I'll say right now, we're not going to get that many every day.
Yeah.
This stuff happens in waves as big people pick it up. Plenty of days will be below par, but others can be 10 times or higher. So don't write this off too early. Don't be that guy I've seen in team games who gives up at the slightest sign of resistance and calls it game over 30 seconds into the match.
It's it. We're done,
I hate
guys.
That crap. I think we're at a crossroads. If we can get enough signatures, then I think we end this and change gaming history. Yeah. Or we can't get our act together and the problem gets worse and worse.
Yeah, again, it's about making sure that a law like this happens, if for no other reason than to set a precedent for other industries doing things that are similar, that have more far-reaching concerns like cars.
Then in the future, we really don't own anything. And we're charged a lot for not owning anything.
Yeah.
Now maybe we get lucky and this is redundant due to all the other legal challenges we have going. But either way, this is it for your chance to save games.
Yep.
There's not going to be a round 2. If you or someone you know is an EU citizen, you have the power to end this just by signing a form.
This is one thing that people don't understand. Like a lot of like people that, I mean, if you live in like a shit country, then like it's not true. But like, if you get enough people together, you can do anything you want. I wish more people understood this, but I think that like there's an effort that's made to make people feel like their input and their collective bargaining is not meaningful. It absolutely is. If you get enough people together, you can change whatever the fuck you want to change.
Plan may have a critical weakness, and that I'm counting on gamers to care about not seeing their games destroyed. I hope that's not too big an ask.
Yeah.
Because years from now, somebody could be saying, I had the chance to save gaming, but it required me to open up a whole new tab in my browser and fill in my name and a CAPTCHA. Oh my God. So I didn't do it. It was just too much work. It wasn't worth it.
I had to give him my email.
If that's the general sentiment among gamers, then yeah, I can't overcome that.
Yeah, there's no way.
Then I'm Don Quixote here fighting windmills. I hope that's not the case. So, yeah, go sign it or tell somebody European about it.
Yeah, he right. He right. He right. True, true, true. All true.
Nah,
Side
put it
along
up,
society
I
by
would be
society,
all
people can
in on
overthrow
it
a
if I
law, a
could.
group, anything. Yeah, you can do anything you want to do.
My
So I want to link you guys
annual
this.
comes
I
out
totally
pretty hard
support
on that
Ross
type of
in this.
stuff.
I think he's right. I'll link you guys the initiative as well. There's the video. Make sure to give it a like. Well, I guess the initiative's just in the comments here, right? Yeah, it's right here. So just take a look at it if you're interested, if you care. This is a huge issue. And I don't really see why, like, I don't see why people would be against this. I don't understand it. Now, I think that the way that the language is written now, some people had concerns with the language. I think that that's obviously up for debate, right? Because, you know, who knows, right? Maybe there could be some language that's problematic. But the essence of what's being argued for, I think, is legitimate. And that is that if you buy a game, you should be able to play.
Yeah, I don't know, like that. This is one of them cases I need like CMO Genesis or something, because I'm not like in detail like familiar with like the ins and outs of the like legal requirement and language requirement for like laws in the EU. Because you know I know over here in America, like you know we love keeping shit vague. And we also love taking money from the corporation we are trying to gobble as well to not gobble. But when coming to EU, like I don't know. There's like one of them cases of like if the central get hit and it gets submitted and to be voting upon, is that it? You know, it like whatever it is when it get approved, that is the only revision. Or there's something that could be revision and then come back to. I don't know. I don't know to what extent that the EU will actually, you know, allow type, you know, that type of modification. So the problem is like the main reason why this shit wouldn't walk over here is because the people that we would need to do this stuff for, it already, you know, too deep in the pocket. Could you believe that, you know, video game company, especially like the big publisher, like you can't tell me they not like lobbying for, you know, the same shit as like the Coke bottle, you know? And that is the biggest issue, at least over here in America, with that type of stuff. And the problem is the EU don't really met with that because my knowledge is you can't technically bribe or donate money to politician to do your bidding. And over here you totally can do that. So like sadly, like what we talked about before with the Biden thing of like fucking with the money, and like the only way this shit would fly over here is if you become, you know, a trillionaire and have more money than every other person that is donating. Or like such a low margin that the politicians are gonna get down on their knees for you. Like that's the only way like that type of stuff gonna work over here. Without, you know, which we know will never happen, without we just like ban, you know, getting money from corporation, you ban, like donor groups and committee groups. And, you know, but that's not gonna happen. So it's like, you know, to something change on that end, sadly the only real option is make sure you give more money than the Waltons, or give more money than the Coke Blood, or give more money than Microsoft, or give, you know, more money than Apple, or give more money than Apex. You know, it's like that's just not gonna happen. Not over here. Or at least not, you know, not without some really huge reforms that will have to be in place that have way more reach than a random video game being taken off an online store, you know. But a leap for the EU is like there's something that could happen over there. It's just gonna be the question of like the details of like what can they change, what can they not, how can they actually nail it down. And like I said, like my familiar net with the EU and not, you know, not big enough to be able to speak one way or another on it. The only thing I know about EU politics is, it's more than two parties, and the unfortunate FCC that deals with this don't fuck around with companies over there. So yeah.
Play that fucking game, and they shouldn't be able to stop you from trying to play the game when they decide to stop providing service, right? That's the difference. So yeah, it's like, remember whenever Windows decided to stop updating Microsoft XP, and then like the federal government was so fucking stupid and incompetent they had to spend extra money to increase the support time because of how dumb they were, right? But like, they didn't shut down Windows XP, right? It's not like it got deleted. They just stopped providing support for it. So if you stop providing support for something, that's fine. But to actively stop other people from being able to solve the problem and figure it out themselves, that's where the issue is. That's the problem.
Oh, the reason why I go to a lot
Yeah.
of protest, Joe.
And asking gacha companies to reimburse their players at closure, Tisk. Well, it's not about asking people to reimburse. I think that asking for reimbursement is too much, but what isn't too much is to ask or to not actively prevent people from creating an alternative that they plan to play. Because if you are, here's the thing, right? A company, if you're selling something and a person buys it, that person should be entitled to a certain amount of rights for what they bought. So you can't just be able to sell something to somebody and then just later on change your mind and be like, yeah, well, we decided we don't like what you're saying on Twitter, so we're going to delete your waifus. Like, what the fuck? It doesn't even make sense. So the problem is, yeah, give an offline version, exactly. And if there's no offline version that the person should have access to, well, then effectively that person just got scammed, right? Because they bought something. And then they're
also just thought of it like another example of this, the offline version. Not only City of Heroes and EverQuest, but also like how Wayfinder did it. Of just like, okay, the MMO going away. We're just gonna let you still be able to play it, but now it's single player Slack co-op and PLD. Here you go. So at that point, as long as Steam stay around, or Epic, or PlayStation, or, whatever other platform that holds it stay around, and will allow it to be there, you will have it. Like, that would also be another example of this.
Their access to it was removed through no fault of their own. So, yeah. No, they got scammed. Like, absolutely. Signing right now, yeah. And there's no reason that people should put up with this. Why put up with this? Why allow this to happen? Because let's take a step back. Let's look at Nintendo. When Nintendo sends somebody a cease and desist.
Oh, you my example.
Nintendo doesn't do that. The power of that cease and desist is not by Nintendo. Nintendo is nothing. It's some fucking Japanese company. Who gives a fuck about Nintendo? Do you want to know why the cease and desist matters? It's because if the cease and desist isn't followed, the government comes and actually shuts you the fuck down. Mm-hmm. So Nintendo is powerless.
Oh, Nintendo
they can't do anything. The government acts on their behalf. And all I'm saying is that we should have the government act on our behalf instead. So yeah, I completely agree with this initiative. I absolutely do. Obviously, there are probably some nuances that should get ironed out, etc. But, with like, what does count as like abandonment, etc. But there's the initiative right there. I totally support it. I think that it should be, and I think also, again, even if you don't care about the video game stuff, you should care about this because this is what will happen to other products as well. Like refrigerators. It will happen to cars. It will happen as everything becomes electronic and more companies try to transform their products into services so that they can charge you for them more regularly. This will become more and more common until it completely fucking controls everything, basically, right? It's going to be pervasive through everything. You broke the page? Well, good. You mentioned it on multiple occasions, so more people see it live. If I remember, maybe, I don't know.
Don't be like
so, yeah. What will stop publishers from dropping EU market? It's financially illegal taxing to implement because core logic is server-based. They won't give it up. The core logic, so here's the thing.
Okay, real quick. My opinion on that question is the main reason they wouldn't give up the European market. Is like if it was like some random like little country, you know, like oh we're just not gonna release our game in Germany. Oh, we're not gonna release our game in Japan. Oh, you know, like that, you know, the one that had like 0.1% of the overall market. But the thing is about the game industry is the game industry is broken into like four main. We have of course U.S., EU, Japan, and then the like China Asia market. And like obviously there are countries that exist in there, but at the same time, it like you know like example would be like the reason why you go play Contra in Germany, you find robots and not humans, and then over here it's humans and not robots. But the thing is the EU is such a large piece of the pie, only second to the US. Especially the main reason why EU is like one of the biggest places for game corporations, and to have like offices, not only because you know since they're so big they get a whole bunch of taxes and what, but nonetheless, it is like the second biggest market. So it like that the main reason they won't drop it. If it was something like you know Japan or like I said like Finland or something, like they would absolutely. You know, kind of like the whole reason why the TikTok ban not gonna really matter in the end for TikTok because like US is so small overall. I think why would they care to drop it and move on? And that is the whole reason, like the EU being like such a big piece of the pie, that they won't do it. The hope would be, which you know not gonna be the case since obviously the devs can't do anything but sue once it go away. But but it, like since it's not like tied to intellectual property and not tied to any like game design thing like loot boxes or login bonuses kind of stuff, it's like they're not gonna have to make like a dissing game quote unquote. It like all they're gonna mean is they gonna like look and be like, are you holding it server in the US? Are you holding it server in like you know Japan? You are. We suing you. You know, shut it down. Like, so yeah, they're not gonna like, you know, sadly, this is not gonna translate to other countries, and they're not just gonna cut EU out of it either.
There have been a lot of games that have been remade, but the reason why. So, do you want to know the reason why nobody's been able to remake Bloodborne into PS5? Do you want to know the real reason why? It's because it's illegal.
Mm-hmm.
If remaking Bloodborne for like PC was legal and you could do it, it would have happened years ago. The big reason why this stuff doesn't happen is because the resources put towards it it's a waste of resources because you can just get banned. Couldn't Americans not sign in via VPN? Now they're losing their source code? Well, I don't know. What about the difference between paying for a service and paying for a product? I think that just because you call a product a service doesn't make it a service. You can't just redefine things in ways that give you more control. Like, for example, a service makes sense whenever you're talking about a haircut. A service makes sense whenever you're talking about somebody mowing your lawn. It doesn't make sense in terms of a video game. So just because you want to redefine things in a way that's beneficial to you doesn't necessarily mean that way should be enforced legally. So no, I don't agree with that. I think you're wrong. About what?
Actually, no. The reason though, like, there's some separation in whatever the tournament service is. Because the tournament service is how they legally separate the whole buying from licensing from printing. And you know, once you sign that tournament service, then you know, graduation, they now can do whatever they want. So you fall into that camp of like, either you give up all your whites on it and you get a product that can expand into model if whatever company decide to, or you just don't, you know, anticipate with that product at all, which is the side I lean on. But you know, once again,
yeah, because I'd be fine to hear like let me read this person's comment. I think microtransactions count as bought service, not as a product. I think you're hyper fixated on the Logitech thing. I'm not even thinking about that. Who cares about that? Sorry if I already saw a Pirate Software stick on the topic. No, I'm fully willing to admit or to acknowledge that there might be nuances of this that probably shouldn't be as what do you call it? They should not be like as broad as they are. No, sure. Yeah, I that's fine. I agree. Okay, fine. I agree. Sure. But like what part of it is problematic? Let me go ahead and listen. Just sign? Yeah, no, I'm curious. I think that being able to allow us to use the game itself as the service and the items on that game aren't real. Yeah, but the money you spent on them was, and the money was real, and because the money was real, I think you should have real rights for those products.
I agree with
so
that.
if you want to say that it's not real, oh, well, it's not a real product. Okay, well, I'm giving you real money. So if it's not a real product, then I should be able to steal it then.
Yeah, exactly. I get into the whole thing, the whole argument and the mindset. If everything gonna be a stolen, I'm gonna win it, and if I don't own it, then piracy is not stealing, which I do agree with, like on that end, like it like one of them things of like once you're doing something a tangible to something real and something like in the case of like spend real money on it, a real product, and like that getting into the shit of just like being like, oh, that's not real because of X, Y, and Z, but it is. It'd be like the whole thing of like, oh, you do commission art, well, that's not a real job. You stream, well, that's not a real job. Like, yes, it is, because money involved, and I pay taxes on it, so it will. And that's the same thing here. Like, yeah, if you're spending real money on something, digital or not, it count as a real like transaction, a real item. Any if I personally, will have like a plushie or something appelled to a hat in a game, that's my own preference. But I'm still not gonna say it's not, I'm not gonna say it's not like a real item. But like, no. Like that item cost $20, that is like, 2 to 3 hours of your day at some shitty job that then get taxed on it. No, absolutely, it's a real item.
Right? Because it doesn't exist? No, no. It's too much power for them. Absolutely not. Consumer protection, yeah. So you're spending real money on this, you should have real protections. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And if you're not spending real money on it, then yeah, sure, right? But if you spend real money on something...
Yeah, you playing the game and getting Thor gems, and then you're like in fancy Thor, and then you buy a hat for Thor. And that item is only to that means. Like, okay, now we can kind of debate that. But the second you bring in like real money, nah. That will
there should be actual accountability for it, absolutely. Right, everything is getting more subscription-like, exactly. And what if WoW died after a bunch of people bought cosmetics? Well, then it should be fair if somebody wants to make a private server that let's say, so WoW shuts down. Easy decision, right? So WoW shuts down, and the game is no longer being provided. I think that you should be able to set up a private server with no restrictions, and Blizzard can't shut it down.
Mm-hmm. Once again, the way Wayfinder did that was like, oh, you bought an outfit when it was an MMO. Oh, it's single player now. So we're gonna do two things for you. We're gonna however much money you spent in a game, we're gonna give it to you in-game currency to go to an NPC to buy stuff that are new to the game. And then every item that you spend money on, go out and do a dungeon. Like the drop rate is super high on all real transaction items. So it'd be like, oh, I bought this outfit that I love for a character or a skin I love. It'd be like, okay. Literally, like, go look on a wiki page. Be like, oh, that outfit in that dungeon. Won it once or twice. Congratulations, you got your outfit back. That's the way Wayfinder did it.
Because they're not providing an alternative for it.
They didn't take anything away.
because you bought that game,
You might have been 5-10 minutes
and
getting
you
it
should
back,
have
but
the
you can
right to
get
be
it
able to
back.
play that game in the way that you bought it.
And you get reimbursed in-game with
Absolutely.
exclusive item for spending will money with MMO.
Like, if that's not the case, then the company should give you back your money. You can't just take people's money and then there's no accountability for what you do with the money. That's a huge problem. Like, as a consumer, as a customer, you have certain rights, and you should have certain rights. It's crazy. Of course not. Let me read it again. I don't think the company should be held accountable to that, though. People make bad decisions. You can't make the seller to force... I don't think the company should be held accountable to that. What do you think? Well, they're not being held accountable. It's that... So I think you're misunderstanding. So it's not that they're not being held accountable. It's that a person can set up a server in place of the company instead. People make bad decisions. You can't force the seller to make up for those. I don't really understand what you mean by this.
Yeah, they're getting into, like, what I was talking about earlier, about, like, the Wayfinder thing of, like, you know, the publisher took the money, not the company, so they couldn't fund it any if they wanted to. So, it, like, you know, like I said, they just been like, oh, you spend, you know, $20, $100. Here you get currency for new items that are, you know, equal, maybe not, like, equal in value because they're not items you spend the money on. Then there were no loot boxes or anything. But, you know, you still got something in return that is trying to reimburse you the best they can with what they have at the moment. And so, like, yeah. Like, obviously, company can't just give you your money back most of the time. Most of the time, that money goes to God know what. For example, Wayfinder, most of that money probably went to Warframe or Soulflame. You know, like, that money long gone. Usually, or, you know, in the pocket of the CEO for the yacht. You know, either way, the money is gone. So yeah, like, if the company doing a private server like how WoW Classic is, you know, there is a way to, like, reimburse the player base that not exclusively giving money back. Like, some player obviously won't be happy. Some player will be like, oh, that's fine, whatever. And then you have some player like, hey, I just want to support the game, you know. You guys stay working on it maybe a month longer than you would normally. You know, depending on where you fall on that. But at the same time is like, you know, being like, hey, you spent all that money on game. But we're not going to go after, like, private servers or anything, like, any of the cases, like, forcing by law to do it, in case that you would pass. But just, like, little things like that, Elite for me, would be, like, you know, like, using Nintendo again as an example, would be how I don't buy digital Nintendo stuff, because I don't trust Nintendo as far as I can hold them. But if Nintendo would be like, oh, you just spent all that money, we removing, like example, let's say you spent the what, like $30-$40 a year for, like, Nintendo Extra bonus, whatever. And then they take that away when the next console comes out. And it, like, if Nintendo wouldn't, like, go after, like we were talking about the WOM ISO stuff, if Nintendo wouldn't go after them site outside of their own, like, legalness, as we talked about earlier, only at still release game franchise, that type of stuff. If they didn't, outside of that, it, like, if they didn't go after them people, like example would be like when Capcom, when a fan made a Capcom Marvel, or not, sorry, Mega Man vs. Street Fighter. Like, when that game came out, it, like, any of I bought, like, Mega Man outfits or whatever, or, like, I supported Capcom. Let's just say I supported Capcom. And then that game came out, and then Capcom was like, that cool. We're going to promote it. We're going to put it up on the Mega Man 20th anniversary site where people can download it. Cool. Good job. We're not shutting it down. We're going to actually help people get out there and play it. And like at that point, any if I'm losing like a skin or outfit or whatever, it just having that amount of like care and appreciation for your community. Any if I would lose the item, that still would want me to spend money on that company because they're like, hey, I want to support the company. I want to buy these skins. I want to buy the outfit because I want to support you because you actually care about your community. You care about your player base. You care about the people who absolutely love your franchise, who are going to go out and way making a legit Mega Man game with Street Fighter characters. And in return, you're like, that cool. It'd be like, I want you to stay around. I don't want you to go out of business. I don't care if I lose my outfit. I want you to stay in business. And, you could also do that as well. Of course, outside the stuff that you legally have to, because, the whole, like, losing your copyright if you don't defend it, especially in America. But, like, you keep that shit to the bare minimum possible. And, like, losing outfits and stuff, or spending money in a game and losing it, like, I wouldn't bat an eye at it. Like, I would not bat an eye at it at all. And that, like, them boards, like, paying it back. Yeah, because the whole thing about people, people making bad decisions and spending their money, like, yeah, that don't getting, I feel like that's a separate argument, to be honest, Joe. Like, him using this as, like, oh, people making bad decisions, like the gambling addict type, or the people that, get hooked into this. And that thing, they now homeless or not paying the bills or, all the shit that come with addiction. Is that is like a whole nother discussion about like, game company doing the stuff that plays on that stuff, FOMO stuff, loot boxes, like that type of stuff. That type of stuff I don't think need to be in games at all. Like, I don't, because a lot of the people who are doing the bad decision, though, not all of them, obviously, but like a large chunk of the people who have fallen into that camp are the people who have fallen into the addiction of gambling. And, the whole chasing that high of getting, like an SSR character or whatever. So like that's the main reason. Like, yeah, don't do loot boxes, but obviously they do that because they make a lot of money because gamble. But at the same time, it's like instead of using this as a argument for buying outfits and skins, this is like a separate discussion altogether about how companies shouldn't be abusing people who have these intentions and designing a game exclusively to take advantage of them people in the like. So yeah, this is like a separate discussion. So yeah. Yeah, to me, accused. So yeah. Because the thing is, that, like, the main reason why a lot of people make excuses, is sadly, a lot of people can't take, they can't take responsibility for their decisions. And not counting addiction stuff. Yeah, we be getting into like that discussion, addiction. But like for the average person that were like, oh, I'm gonna spend like maybe $5 a month, like $2 here, $3 there. I'm enjoying the game. I want to support the game. The people that is, trying to do something specific and not because of like that addictness. And then if they come out and be like, how dare you rob me for taking it down, like, yeah, you just, that on you. That's the whole reason, like I say, any with stuff, like the few games that does the whole like no loot bot, nothing, like heal the item, buy it or don't. Who cares? you know, like, as you probably know, with like the Fourth Descendant, how Fourth Descendant have it, where like, if you want the Kelto, give up $20. If you don't want the Kelto, go farm it. Instead of being like, hey, give up $20 and we're gonna give you a loot box of 10 items that might have the item you need to make the Ultra Bunny. And like, the game that do the whole thing, like, oh, you want to buy it? Here it is, $20. You know, Fourth Descendant, Wayfind, or have done this. Like, stuff like that, it like, if you spending money on any of that stuff, you're not chasing the hype, is like, I'm a firm believer in the case of do it because either you want to support the game and the company, as I was using the Capcom example, or you know buying that like class or character or whatever, and you know you're gonna use it, and as for you justifying, can you justify the fight pad to the amount of enjoyment you get? If the answer is no, you probably should not be buying. Well, once again, you don't care and you just want to, you know, support the company. And then if you start whining about that after the fact, it's like, yeah, that don't much. Like, you know, maybe, and maybe you need to self-reflect on, you know, the reason you bought it if you're gonna get pissy about it, you know?
Yeah, I'm very confused by this. What if they tell you before that the game dies and you lose your stuff? It doesn't matter. Yeah, I don't care. I don't think that you should be able to sign there are a number of essential consumer rights that you should not be able to sign away with an EULA. I think this is a very harmful process because the truth is that EULAs and terms of service are massive. They are unapproachable. They're made in legal language that is not accessible to an average person. So by the nature of you signing this, everybody knows that people don't know what they're signing whenever they sign an EULA. Everybody knows that they don't know what they're signing. So why are we using this as a benchmark for what's acceptable and what's not? It's crazy. Of course not.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's like, any of you don't understand the language of the terms of service stuff, it's still like one of them cases of like, I feel like at this point, I feel like maybe this is like one of them things living under a rock. I don't know, but I kind of feel like, well, we are, at least in America right now. Maybe other countries might be a little more iffy, but at least in America, is I don't know how someone can be like, when the term of service would pop up, or like yes or no, how you can't automatically assume, any of you don't understand it, don't already know just by precedent that, you know, you signing away pretty much all your rights. Like everything that you could use to fight this, you just signing away. And it boggled my mind on how people who will sign this shit and then act surprised whenever, like, you know, they lose them, like the Discovery Channel goes on PlayStation. Like, nah, you should know how this is at that point. It like, literally, all this stuff is not for you, it's for the company. And if you took the time to read it, or, you know, learned about it, like, it's still the same outcome any if you don't know, and you're just living through precedent, you know? So, it like, yeah, because that torn survey is to protect the company, so you can't sue them for, like, taking your shit away, or can't sue you for, like, locking you into a time gap, or locking you into, like, collecting information. It, like, there was nothing in terms of service that is good for you. You know? And just like, I can't understand why people would be like, they took my shit away. Like, yeah, because it literally in the terms of service saying they're going to take your shit away at one point, or have the right to take it away at a drop of a hat. Why are you angry about it? You signed it. Like, you can't you know, maybe if you're like 8 or 9 or 10 and you're super young, maybe. But like seeing like 40, 50, 60-year old do this shit, it like, dude, it's like, nah. This shit is here for the corporation, not you. Which is the reason, like, if you have any strong feeling about any of this type of stuff, don't fucking sign it. Don't play the game. Don't, interact with that product. It's like, well, you have to life and death wise, like, hospital or doctor, or hopping on a roller coaster if you want them people. Like, don't fucking sign anything or agree to anything. If you have any amount of, like, resolve against any of these subjects, Yeah, that the whole thing is just like, it one of them cases like, oh, I lost my game. Oh, I lost my outfit. Oh, I lost my TV shows I bought. Oh, I lost my movie. I lost my music. Like, why do they keep happening? It's like you can only be like so dumb where it's just like, at least for me it's just like real life, like you can't do anything for these people. Fuck it. Let them go. Let them go for no life around. It's like there's only so much you can do. But it still like in my soul like boggle my mind, like how do these people get to that point? And then I look around me and like, oh, never mind. Like, But then again, this all come back to my whole thing of like, if you bitch and moan about something, it's like maybe you shouldn't take part in it at all. Probably be happy or not do it, Yeah, because it's like Moat Company, and like didn't I would say didn't I enter the gaming? It's like, how many times have you been to a doctor or you walked a job that also made you sign, TOSs? You know? Just saying. Like, I did not judge the gaming industry.
What I thought was the case was this law would enforce companies to provide service after the game dies. That's clearly not what it said. It said that, it literally said that's not what it does. It said explicitly, no, that's not what it does. Okay, so there we go, right? Jesus. Jesus Christ, read it before you talk. I know, man. I know. Jason Schreier Bungie article just dropped. Yeah, I might look at a couple of videos. Someone starts private server. WoW decides to reopen WoW with an updated server structure. At what point is the legal line drawn? When they announce relaunching WoW, when they open the servers, when it's available? Well, I don't know. I think that's a good question. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think
and that's why I think there are probably nuances like that that are worth investigating and looking into.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah. That kind of where I fall on this. It's just like, I hope they pounce. I really do. Because it's like, if they pounce, and like I said, my only at that point, my only issue, which I could be horribly wrong on, because there are a lot of devs in the UK, because I said second biggest play for the industry. Oh, technically could be fourth play if you think about how many company in the EU, but like, would be nice that it be everywhere and not just for the EU, but I feel like it's something that any of it don't pass, I do feel like they will be like, voted upon. But I do hope it passed though. I really do. Cause like, yeah, that would be like another one of them cases of like, if a game shut down I love, and the company don't provide a way to play it, aka Wayfinder. Like City of Heroes as example, like that shut down and what they are doing. Like any of the companies don't do that stuff. It still be nice knowing that there is a way. It just might take longer for it to happen. And let's be honest, any of the dub patch, it doesn't mean every single game's gonna be saved in the end. Because there is games that will not have, the person behind it to actually get it up and running again. You know, might it be the fan base too low? Maybe the game is so bad no one want to touch it outside of like maybe for shits and giggles. But like, you know, there's still gonna be games that gonna fall through the crack. But at least this is like a step in a direction, not just have everything vanishing. Any more so add the game industry move. Any more so into like exclusivity live. So if floating, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's magic. It's magic. You gotta go over to YouTube to figure it out. But damn, why am I sorceress? And I don't have my magic power right now to turn lights off and snap my fingers. But you know I had it once.